service before y'all start.
Abanawa.
Abanawa.
Shabbat Shemayim.
Shabbat Shemayim.
Kadash.
Kadash.
Haya.
Haya.
Shomka.
Shomka.
Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Malakwatka.
Malakwatka. Naba'a.
Ratazaika.
Ratazaika. Haya. Aisha. Baraktaza. Kara. Haya. Bashemayim. Latananawa. Lakom. Kayawam. Wasalaknawa. Kabawaknawa. Kabawaknawa. Wala'a. Tabiyanawa. Banasaiwan. Abo. Awashainawa. Mayan. Rai. Kaya. Laka. Amalakwa. Wala'ala. Walatai Para. Wai Walumyum. Bashim. Amashiach. Yahushai. Tawada. Kamyan. Amun.
This is the book of Matthew, verse 6 verse 9. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. For if you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. Ma'ashem Mashiach Yahushua, the water. Amen.
19th Street, everybody out here in the plaza, we are your servants, the true servants of the Most High that you read about in the scriptures, right? We're the Hebrew Israelites, and we came to wake up our people, right? We came out here to tell y'all the truth according to the Holy Scriptures, who y'all are, and how you're supposed to conduct yourselves according to the Holy Bible. All right, let me get Colossians 3:19. 3:17.
This is the book of Colossians 3:17. And whatsoever you do in word or deed, do in all in the name of the Adonai Yahushua, giving thanks to the Most High and the Father by Him.
Everything that we do,
me and my family, you got something going on. I understand what you're saying.
Hey, is it okay if we, hey brother,
brother, as a person,
brother, hey brother, hey brother, excuse me, brother. Brother, what are we saying? Can we? Is it okay? Would you cool? Is it cool if we, brother?
You mind if we slide down?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, we don't have a problem with that. Yeah, we family. It's all love. All right, so we came out here to tell y'all the truth according to the Holy Scriptures, who you are and what we got going on, right? And what we. Where you get that from?
I see it every day.
Come around here and talk to me, brother. Come down, this
Every day, bro.
What happened?
Y'all reading in your face? It's so y'all like, come on, stop it.
Brother, we just reading out the Bible. We just reading out the Bible. Okay, so tell me what you believe, brother.
The Bible like that, man.
Tell me what you believe,
brother. The Bible like that.
Tell me what you believe, brother.
The Bible like
How we playing? We just reading out of it. Let me get Deuteronomy 7:6. Let me get Deuteronomy 7:6. Tell me if you agree with this.
Agree with what?
I'm about to read it to you.
What I got to read?
Tell me if you agree with this.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7, verse 6.
Read.
For thou art a holy people.
The Bible says you are a holy people. We're holy people. Read.
Unto the Lord thy God.
Unto the Most High God. We are holy. That's what we came out here to tell our people. Read.
The Lord God has chosen thee.
The Most High has chosen us. Read.
To be a special people.
To be a special people.
Unto himself.
Unto himself. That's what we came out here to tell our people. We are special. We're above everybody on the planet. We are special. That's what the Most High told us. We can't go based off of what we feel. We got to go based off the Most High. What He says. Keep reading.
Above all people.
Below all people.
Above all people.
Equal to all people.
Above all people.
The Most High said we are above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Keep reading.
That are upon the face of the earth.
That are in 19th Street.
That are upon the face of the earth.
We're above all people that are upon the face of the earth. That said the Most High. Read.
Right now.
The Lord did not set His love upon you, nor choose you, because you were more in number than any people. Because you were more in number than any people, for you were the fewest of all people.
Drop that. So that's what we came out here to tell everybody. Right? Let me get Proverbs 3 and 5. The Most High sent us out here to let our people know that we are on the top. We supposed to be on the top, but we on the bottom. We on the bottom for a reason, because we transgress the laws of the Most High. That's why we on the bottom, right? We can't go based off of what nobody tells us, because we live and we act according to thus saith the Most High, not according to what nobody think. We used to think a certain way and we was wrong. That's why we didn't prosper. But right now we keeping the commandments, and the Most High woke us up. Everybody ain't gonna wake up. You got that, Ox? You got that?
Book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 5. Read, trust in the Most High.
The scriptures say trust in the Most High. Read,
with all thine heart.
we gotta trust in the Most High with all our heart. Read,
And lean not unto thine own understanding.
so we can't lean towards our own understanding. We can't go based off the philosophy of what somebody thinks or what somebody tell you that don't have a Bible in their hand. If you got a Bible if you don't have a Bible in your hand, you only telling me what you feel. Let me get Jeremiah 17 and 9. It's not about what you feel, because we all felt a certain way. We go thus saith the Most High, right? We don't wake ourselves up in the morning. The Most High does that. He don't give us we don't curse ourselves. The Most High does that. We don't increase ourselves. The Most High does that. We don't protect ourselves. The Most High does that.
Right.
We didn't put these plagues on the earth, coronavirus and all this other stuff. The Most High does that.
Right.
It's not about what you think. What you think doesn't matter. It's about what the scriptures say. It's about what, right?
It's called G5.
What- Look, brother, the point is, brother, chill, brother.
Why you coming with such aggression, brother? Brother, why you coming up there with such aggression?
Yeah.
We what? We do what?
We your brother, you gotta stop walking up on us.
Of course he can speak freely. Of course he can. We don't have a problem with that at all.
Okay.
Touch unless we're being touched.
We're not touching nobody.
We're not.
No, we should have respect for each other and keep each other's distance. That's all we saying.
What type of Jews
That
are
was
you?
outside of your message.
I'm sorry.
When you touch me, that was outside the message.
Well, we should respect each other. I understand that. I agree with you. But brother, we should respect each other's space. That's all. We can talk to each other and keep space between each other. We're men.
Going nowhere now.
But
Now we ain't going
the
nowhere.
message, like I said, we have to proceed with everybody.
We don't have an issue with that, brother. That's why we out. That's why we out here. Hey, brother. Hey, gird up. Brother.
Now we ain't moving now.
Brother, just chill.
Now we're not going nowhere.
Hey, brother. Listen, brother. Why is it, brother?
Y'all don't want to have no respect for us.
Why? Y'all come out here and don't have no respect.
Hey, listen.
If we tell y'all,
You ain't standing here.
He just watching the spot. Brother, chill. Hey, cap, chill. Brother. Why you so amped up? We just trying to talk. Brother, we trying to talk to you.
All praise to the power of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, for surely his mercy endure forever. We still not? We're live right now?
Get out. Try to get him back up, Kingdom. Madian Wapan, Brother Shuffle. Wapanya, the Jerusalem. Stand to face Jerusalem. A Mashiach's Palal, the Lord's Prayer. Matthew 6, verse 9. Abanawa. Shabashimaya. Kwadash. Haya. Shamka. Yahawa. Malakwaka. Taba'a. Raktazaka. Haya. Aisha. Ba'araktaza. Kawa. Haya. Bashimaya. Nathan Lanawa. Lakam. Kal. Yawam. Wasalak Nawa. Kawabwath Nawa. Kasalak Nawa. Kabawak Yanawa. Wala'a. Tabaya Anawa. Banasaya 1. Abal. Hawasha Nawa. Mayan. Rai. Kaya. Laka. Hamalakwa. Waha'ala. Wahatapa Arath. La'awalamyam. Ba'asham. Hamashiach. Yawashai. The water. Amen.
The book of St. Matthew, chapter 6, verse 9. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. For if you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father also forgive you. But if you give men not their trespasses, neither will our Father forgive your trespasses. Abunai Hauba Shemasek Yahushai, the water from Yana.
Amen. Yashabim. Be seated. Shabbat Shalom Yasharala, Shamash Gawashai. All praise to the Most High, the power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob for another Shabbat day, another week, where Israel can come together in holy convocation. As per the covenant they made with our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. We are the land of Zion, located down here in South Florida, 2937 West Broward Boulevard, Fort Lauderdale. I'm Elder Bishop Lapalal, and to my left,
Captain Yakazak Walahama Tazak.
Khan. We're going to continue the book of 2 Kings, going into the captivity of Israel by under the Assyrians. Before we do that, let's get Colossians 3, verse 17.
The book of Colossians, chapter 3, verse 17. And whatsoever we do in word or deed, do all by Shemasek Yahushai, giving thanks to the power and the Father by him.
Right, whatever you do in word or deed, whether the words coming out of your mouth or thoughts that in your head, make sure they're consistent with the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments, and the teaching of the Mashiach Yahushua. Right? That's our foundation. 2 Kings chapter 16, verse 1.
The book of 2 Kings, chapter 16, verse 1. In the 17th year of Pekah.
As a matter of fact, go to 2 Kings 15, verse 38. So start from verse 37. So we can lead into this is like the prelude, leading into what the events that's going to be outlined in chapter 16. Verse 15, chapter 15, verse 37.
The book of 2 Kings, chapter 15, verse 37. Mm-hmm. In those days, the odd one began to send against Judah Rezon, the king of Syria, and Pekah, the son of Remaliah.
Right, so in those days, the Most High began to send against Judah. The southern kingdom, Rezon, the king of Syria. So Rezon, the Syrian king, and Pekah, the son of Remaliah, were warring against Judah, the southern kingdom. Read on.
And Jotham slept with his fathers. And Jotham slept with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David his father, and Ahaz his son reigned in his stead.
Right, so Jotham died with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David, his father, and Ahaz his son reigned in his stead. So Jotham, the king of Judah, was succeeded by his son Ahaz. Let's see what's going on. Let's see what happened in the reign of Ahaz, king of Judah, the southern kingdom of Israel. 2 Kings chapter 16, verse 1.
In the 17th year of Pekah, the son of Remaliah, Ahaz, the son of Jotham, king of Judah, began to reign. 20 years old was Ahaz when he began to reign.
So Ahaz succeeded his father when he was 20 years old as king of the southern kingdom of Judah. Read on.
20 years old was Ahaz when he began to reign, and reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, and did not that which was right in the sight of the other one his power, like David his father.
Yeah, but Ahaz, 20 years old, he reigned for 16 years. So we conclude based on that he had an early departure from earth, so to speak, in the physical. 36 years old. Okay. Read on. And he did evil in the sight of the Most High. You know what? He did not keep the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments as his forefathers did, like David. Read on.
But he walked in the way of the kings of Israel, yea, and made his son to pass through the fire, according to the abominations of the heathen, whom the other one cast out from before the children of Israel.
Look at that. Damn, this guy sacrificed his son. How abominable is that? How wicked is that? How simple is that? Knowing the history of your people, how we were so close to the Most High, or the Most High delivered us, knowing that it's amazing the kind of mindset that our people can have, man. In light of all the truth and knowledge that's supposed to be in abundance and available to them. They know their history. They know that there's no power but the Most High Yahweh. And all the information and knowledge was passed down to them from the forefathers. And this guy, hey, regardless if he was a young guy, it doesn't matter. He let his son pass through the fire. You sacrifice his son to an idol, to heathen gods. But he walked in the way of the kings of Israel. You know, that's talking about the northern kingdom. You know, Jeroboam. This guy, like he set the precedence for abomination in the northern kingdom, man. And most of the kings that followed him just walked in that wicked footstep that he set. Yea, and made his son to pass through the fire. You know, he sacrificed his son. Open the egg, he's going to get blessing from heathen. According to the abominations of the heathen, whom the Most High cast out from before the children of Israel. That's what this guy Ahaz did. Read on. Verse 4.
And he sacrificed and burnt incense in the high places, and on the hills, under every green tree.
Right, so this guy was a major worshiper of Molech. Which word Molech really means that's another way of saying Malak, which is what means what? King. And the king they're referring to is actually Nimrod. Because this is the a religion, a philosophy, a doctrine that goes back to, because Nimrod was the scripture says what? A mighty hunter. I'm saying and the nations coming up, different nations of the earth, embrace the tradition of Nimrod, embrace Nimrod and Tammuz and all that. And they looked up to him, and they regarded him as God. Understand? Regardless of what name they may use, whether it's a Baal or whatever, it's the same spirit and it's the same person, because the different nations call them by different names. Understand? So even our own people got caught up into that to this very day. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, but yeah. Yeah, because that very same spirit, it never went anywhere. It's still right here. And we can see that same spirit, where did Christmas come from? From Nimrod, right? You know what I'm saying? That ain't no secret. Because the prevalent religion on earth today is what? Christianity. And for the most part, that's what I'm talking about, Catholicism. Understand? And that they incorporated most of the traditions of the ancient Babylonians into Christianity. Understand? And that's, and Esau is very much embedded into that. So-called even white supremacy is based on that. Yeah, so the same spirit that the so-called white man had is what they adopted from the ancient Babylonians. But what is America? Yeah, the modern day Babylon. Understand? America is a modern day Babylon. I read on.
And they sacrificed and burnt incense in the high places, and on the hills, and under every green tree. Then Rezin, king of Syria, and Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, came up to Jerusalem to war.
See that? Rezin, king of Syria, and Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, came up to Jerusalem to war. So there was an alliance right there between the Syrians and the northern kingdom against Judah, the southern kingdom. So we have Israelites linking up with a heathen nation to fight against the fellow Israelites who was of a different, kingdom. Yeah, I'm saying, that. Read on.
And they besieged.
Read verse 5 again.
Then Rezin, king of Syria, and Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, came up to Jerusalem to war. And they besieged Ahaz, but could not overcome him.
Right, they besieged him, or they surrounded the city. So nobody could go out, nobody could come in. But they put up a good fight. But Ahaz put up a good fight, so they could not overcome him right away. Read on.
At that time, Rezin, king of Syria, recovered Elath to Syria, and drave the Jews from Elath.
Let me see where Elath is. Let me see a map up there. Let's see what. At that time, Rezin, king of Syria, recovered Elath to Syria. Elath previously belonged to Syria, but the Israelites captured it from Syria. Let me see whether we can see where Elath is. He doesn't. I'm not sure. Let me see where Elath is. Is that no? Is that part of See if you see. Look up Syria or look in Judah. Assyria and dwelt there unto this day. And the Assyrians came to Elath and dwelt there to this day. It's so that Elath is part of Israel. It doesn't show offhand. So it seems as if there was constant war, or between Syria and Israel over Elath. Did they say where Elath is? Oh, Elath, there it is. Okay, right there. So Elath was Elath was southern Edom. Right. Remember that at one point Israel also captured Edom because Elath is very important, because Elath is right there near the Red Sea, near the port, like a port. So the neighbors can go up and down the Red Sea. So Elath was a very important city or town, right? Elath. So the Syrians came all the way from the north to Elath, which is south of Edom. Very far, yeah. I read on.
Verse 6. At that time, Rezin, king of Syria, recovered Elath to Syria, and drave the Jews from Elath.
Right, so because Israel, Edom is close to Judah. Right, here is close to Judah. So Judah had taken of that Elath, but now Syria came and drove the Judahites out and took it over. Read on.
And the Syrians came to Elath and dwelt there unto this day.
Mm-hmm.
So Ahaz sent messengers to Tiglath-Pileser.
So far, there were three nations in the mix. You had Syria, a nation to the north, and the other the divided kingdom of Israel. You have the northern kingdom, which is Israel, and the southern kingdom, which is Judah. So we read that Syria and the northern kingdom form an alliance to wage war against Judah, the southern kingdom. So Ahaz, king of Judah, sent messengers to Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria. Now this is a fourth nation in the mix. Read on.
King of Assyria, saying, I am thy servant and thy son. Come up and save me out of the hand of the king of Syria, and out of the hand of the king of Israel, which rise up against me.
In that son, you trust in man instead of trust. But we should know this guy here, Ahaz. This is the same guy who sacrificed his own son to Molech. We should know that he wasn't going to trust in the Most High. Rather, he chose to trust in who? In the Assyrians, his enemies. He said, come on. He said, I am your servant. I thought Israel was the Most High servant. I thought, I'm saying, this guy chose to be the servant of a heathen nation rather than be the servant of the Most High. Hoping that the nation going to deliver them. That's what's going on with our people, man. Looking for deliverance from your enemies, when they should be looking for deliverance from the Most High. Whether? Yeah, exactly. I don't mind. You got to read quick. Let's be the man that trusted in man. Jeremiah 17:5.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 17, verse 5. Thus saith the other one, cursed be the man that trusteth in man.
Right. You ain't going to get that blessing trusting in man when you should be trusting in the Most High. What's going to happen to you? Curse, man. Whatever expectation you had when you reach out to man, especially heathen, hoping that they were going to save you or deliver you from your enemies, that expectation is not going to come to fruition. The blessing you were expecting to get from that move is going to turn to nothing but curse. All right, go back to 2 Kings. So Ahaz sent to the Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, offering himself up as a servant and a son. You're my master. Deliver me from the Syrians and the Israelites and the northern kingdom, my fellow Israelites, which rise up against me. Read on, verse 8.
And Ahaz took the silver and the gold that was found in the house of the Adwan, and the treasures of the king's house, and sent it for a present to the king of Assyria.
Yeah, but guess what? That friendship wasn't cheap or wasn't free. What did he do? He took the silver and gold that was found in the house of the most. He took the treasures from the temple, from the sanctuary, and the treasures that he had in his palace, and sent it as a present to the king of Assyria. Read on.
And the king of Assyria hearkened unto him, for the king of Assyria went up against Damascus, and took it, and carried the people of it captive to Kir, and slew Rezin.
Yeah, so the Assyrians, that seemed to be a mightier army than the Syrians. So he went up to Damascus. You go out here, we don't live now, yeah. While the Syrians were down in Judah, what did happen? Yeah. The Assyrians went up to them because what? The military, most of them was away from them, you know what I'm saying? So now, so you're right. They was in some place else. So it was easy for them to go up there, and they slew Rezin. Yeah. Right. Right. That's where they were. But then the Assyrians now went to Damascus, the capital of Syria, and took control of that place, and carried the people of it captive to Kir, and slew Rezin. That was the king of Syria. Yeah, he carried the people to Kir. Yes, where's Kir? Kir? Let me see that. Blow that up. Let me see that. Okay. So he carried them to Kir, which is looks like the outskirts of Moab and Edom, somewhere around there. Oh, that must be a territory that the Assyrians were in control of too. Okay. Read on. At this point, we consider that the Assyrians were the major superpower in that region. Read on.
And King Ahaz went to Damascus to meet Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and saw an altar that was at Damascus. And King Ahaz sent to Urijah, the priest, the fashion of the altar and the pattern of it, according to all the workmanship thereof.
So Ahaz, the king of Judah, went to Damascus, to kiss Tiglath-Pileser's ring, so to speak, to pay homage to him, to bow down to him, king of Assyria. And he saw an altar in Damascus, and this guy was always trying to emulate the heathens. He saw an altar in Damascus. Went, oh, we need an altar just like that. The Most High gave the altar that he required of Israel, that he designed for Israel, but you want something that the heathens got. Read on. Verse 11.
And Urijah the priest built an altar according to all that King Ahaz had sent from Damascus. So Urijah the priest made it against King Ahaz came from Damascus. And when the king was come from Damascus, the king saw the altar, and the king approached to the altar and offered thereon. And he burnt his burnt offering and his meat offering, and poured his drink offering and sprinkled the blood of his peace offerings upon the altar.
He did all that. Only guess what though? That wasn't to the Most High. He did all that to what? To Molech, to the Baal, heathen gods, not to the Most High. Plus, the altar he made was not up to the fashion and model that the Most High gave to Israel. The altars he made those sacrifices on where they designed a copy, a replica of the altar of the Assyrians. Read on.
He brought also the brazen altar, which was before the other one, from the forefront of the house, from between the altar and the house of the other one, and put it on the north side of the altar. And King Ahaz commanded Urijah the priest, saying, Upon the great altar burn the morning burnt offering, and the evening meat offering, and the king's burnt sacrifice, and his meat offering, with the burnt offering of all the people of the land, and their meat offering, and their drink offerings, and the sprinkle upon it all the blood of the burnt offering, and all the blood of the sacrifice, and the brazen altar shall be for me to inquire by. Thus Urijah the priest, according to all that King Ahaz commanded. And King Ahaz cut off the borders of the bases, and removed the lever from off them, and took down the sea from off the brazen ox that were under it, and put it upon a pavement of stones. And the covert for the Sabbath that they built in the house, and the king's entry without, turned he from the house of the Adwan for the king of Assyria.
Well, and the covert for the Sabbath that they had, verse 18, that they had built in the house, and the king's entry without, turned he from the house of the Lord for the king of Assyria. So he turned the covert for the Sabbath that they had built in the house, turned he from the house of the Most High for the king of Assyria. So this guy remodeled it, modify the temple. And I'm saying after the fashion of the Assyrians. Read on.
Now the rest of the acts of Ahaz which he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And Ahaz slept with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David. And Hezekiah his son reigned in his stead. Chapter 17.
Right, so Ahaz slept with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David, and Hezekiah his son reigned in his stead. It doesn't give much information about Ahaz. We read early in the start of the chapter that he started reigning at age 20 and reigned for 16 years, which meant that his rulership came to an end at 36. But it doesn't give much information how his rulership came to an end at 36. That sounds like a very young age for a man to have died, unless he died by unnatural circumstances, maybe probably through warfare or something, or some kind of insurrection. You know, I mean, I got the, he said his son reigned in his stead. So usually, when it's not unusual, sometimes, even though you got overthrown, they could still let the young son reign in your stead. So his son, Hezekiah, reigned in his stead. All right. Second Kings chapter 17, verse 1.
2 Kings chapter 17, verse 1. In the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, began Hosea, the son of Elah, to reign in Samaria over Israel 9 years.
So now we're talking about the rulership of Hosea, king of the northern kingdom of Israel. in Samaria, the capital, over Israel, and he reigned for what? 9 years. And his rulership started around, when? In the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah. Okay. In the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah. I read on.
And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Outer One, but not as the kings of Israel that were before him.
He did evil, but it was not as abominable as the kings that preceded him in the northern kingdom. Read on.
Against him came up Salmanasar, king of Assyria, and Hoshea became his servant and gave him presents.
Look at that. Remember that now Assyria was brought into the mix by who? By the southern kingdom, by Ahaz, king of Judah, to rise up against who? The alliance of Assyria and the northern kingdom, Israel. So we read earlier. We read also that the Assyrians brought the Syrians from their land to another territory and slew the king Rezin. And now we see that the Assyrians are now invading the northern kingdom, Israel. Read on.
And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea.
Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, and Hoshea became his servant and gave him presents. So Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria, was now extorting and requesting, demanding a ransom from all of Israel. The southern kingdom under Hezekiah, now under his son, under Ahaz, now under his son Hezekiah, and now from the northern kingdom, Hoshea. Read on.
And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers to king of Egypt.
Read it again.
For he had sent messengers to king of Egypt.
Right. So the agreement that Shalmaneser had with Hoshea, king of Israel, the northern kingdom, was that, hey, you're going to pay me tribute. You got to be my servant. And it's going to be like that. Hey, but, Hoshea pretended to be in agreement with that, but under the sneak tip, covertly, he sent to Egypt to King So, requesting military assistance from king of Egypt. Like I was saying, Assyria was like a major power at that time, but there were other powers along with the Assyrians, like there was a King So of Egypt, the Egyptians. And Assyria got wind of that, and it wasn't pleased with that. Let's see what happens of that after. Read from the top again, verse 4.
And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers to king of Egypt, and brought no present to the king of Assyria, as he had done year by year. Therefore the king of Assyria shut him up, and bound him in prison.
Look at that. He was supposed to be paying tribute to the king of Assyria on an annual basis, but this time he said, no, you know what? I ain't paying you nothing. I'm going. What did he do? He put his trust in the man. He put his trust in what? In So, king of Egypt, thinking that So was gonna defend him against the Assyrians. Guess what happened? And we can see what So left him hanging. So just took his present and said, "Yeah, man, I forget you, man. I ain't coming up against the Assyrians." Thanks to the present, though, that's what happened. Because the Assyrians heard what it did. They saw you didn't send me any present like you were supposed to. Instead, you gave all your jewelries and your money to what? To the Egyptians. I'm coming to get you for that. So what he did, he shut him up, put him in a dungeon or something, and bound him in prison. Yeah, that's what happens when you put your trust in a heathen, put it in men, instead of the Most High. As a matter of all that, give me Isaiah 30.
Book of Isaiah chapter 30, verse 1.
The other one. Let's see which one I want to read. Yeah, 31. Maybe 31. Isaiah 31, chapter 31.
The book of Isaiah chapter 30, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
Woe to the rebellious children.
31. Chapter 31, verse 1.
The book of Isaiah chapter 31, verse 1. Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help, and stay on horses, and trust in chariots, because they are many, and in horsemen, because they are very strong. But they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek they the Lord.
See that? What the Most High say? Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help. What the word woe means? Destruction. And stay on horses, and trust in chariots, because they are many. Because the Egyptians are a large army. They had horses and chariots and all that, a mighty army. So you put the trust in the Egyptian army instead of the Most High. Because they are very strong. But they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek the Most High. Yeah. Destruction is going to come to them when you put your trust, because you're thinking carnally. Because they have a mighty army, and the outset, they say, hey, they can defend me. No matter what we're going through, man, in this time, it's always the Most High, the Holy One of Israel, who we're going to turn to for our help. It's never to any outside entity. No matter how strong they appear to be on the surface. That help that they seek from them, that they're expecting from them, is not gonna manifest. The Most High is always in control of the elements, man. Read on, verse 2.
Yet he also is wise, and will bring evil, and will not call back his words, but will rise against the house of the evildoers, and against the help of them that work iniquity. Now the Egyptians are men.
The Egyptians are just men. They're just men. No matter what entity you see on earth, they are just men. Not the Most High. Read on. Read verse 3 again.
Now the Egyptians are men, and not the Most High.
The Egyptians are men. The Americans are men. The so-called white men are men. The Chinese are men. They are not the Most High. They're not the ultimate power. Whatever power they got, it's the Most High who gave them that power for a certain purpose. They cannot, they will never, cannot ever be our strength. The Most High, the Holy One of Israel, who is our strength. Read on.
And their horses flesh, and not spirit.
Their horses just flesh, man. Read on.
When the other one shall stretch out his hand, both he that helpeth shall fall, and he that is hoping shall fall down, and they all shall fail together.
Right. So when the Most High is ready, all those people that you put your trust in instead of the Most High, both you and them are going to fail if you don't put your trust in the Most High. Read on.
For thus have the other one spoken unto me, like as a lion and a young lion roaring on his prey. When a multitude of shepherds is called forth against him, he shall not be afraid of their voice, nor abase himself for the noise of them. So shall the other one of hosts come down to fight for the mount of Zion, for the hill thereof.
Right, so the Most High is not most are not swayed or intimidated by the multitude of the military or whatever power they think they have on earth. When the most are ready to fight and put an end to the rulership, that's exactly what he's going to do. All right, go back to 2 Kings. 2 Kings 17, what verse were you in? Was it 6? Read verse 4 again. Read verse 4 again. Let's flow right into it.
And the king of Assyria found a conspiracy in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers to So, king of Egypt, and brought no present to the king of Assyria, as he had done year by year. Therefore the king of Assyria shut him up and bound him in prison.
Right. So King Hoshea was supposed to pay this tribute to Salmanasar on a yearly basis, but he didn't this time. Instead, Hoshea sent the money to So, king of Egypt, requesting military help against the Assyrians. The Assyrians found out about it and put Hoshea in a dungeon, in prison. Read on, verse 5.
Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years.
For 3 years the king of Assyria besieged the land of Samaria, the northern kingdom, under the rulership of Hoshea. Read on.
In the 9th year of Hoshea, king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria, and placed them in Hala, and in the harbor of the river of Gozan, and in the cities of the Mede.
So, okay. See, and so in the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria, and placed them in Hala and in Habor by the river of Gozan, and in the cities of the Medes. I don't know if you can get a map of that in a way, if it's possible. So he carried the Israelites into Assyria and into the cities of the Medes. So the Medes were like a different nation too. So there were different territories that the Assyrians were in control of right now. So you can see that the Assyrians, when they capture you, they displace your government. They physically remove you from your territories and bring you someplace else that's a foreign country. So they're trying to disorganize you. So you can, so it's hard for you to recuperate, come back and attack them and all that. That's the strategy. So he brought them to different cities in Assyria and other territories that the Assyrians were in control of. All this took place what time of the year? What era of time was this? We know that the king of Israel split when? In 933 BC, after the death of Solomon, right? Understand? And the northern kingdom ruled up until this time for 211 years. Up until what? 722 BC. So this right here is taking place in 722 BC. The Assyrians took down the northern kingdom under Hoshea, 722 BC, 211 years after the kingdom was split, when Solomon died. We know that the first king of the northern king was who? Jeroboam. And the first king of the southern king was who? Rehoboam. Okay? So the northern kingdom reigned, they ruled for 211 years before they got displaced and was taken into exile by the Assyrians. Verse 7. Huh? You put them up? Where you got? Let me see where you got. Right, so, all right, exactly. Goes, okay, so they were carried into different territories. Goes, and that's part of the Assyrian territory, right? Goes on, see to the Medes, right, Hala, right. Pass one of those drumsticks. Let me see if I can point it out. Need another point to it over here. To what? This is what goes on, whatever the city is. And Hala, another city. No, this is Nineveh, which is one of the probably the capital of Assyria. We know about Nineveh, right? With Jonah, right? And as you can see that a lot of Israelites. That's why you see when Jonah was sent to Nineveh to preach, what did the Most High send Jonah to preach to? Israelites, because what? The Israelites were carried away into these cities. Understand? Israelites were carried away captive into these cities. And the Most High, no matter where, that's why the Most High always got a little sanctuary for his people. No matter where you are, no matter where you're going through, the Most High always, never forget you. Always have you in remembrance. So the Most High sent his message, sent Jonah to speak to the Israelites in Nineveh. Understand? We're just reading right now, in 722 BC, Israel is captured of Gozan to Hala and to the Medes and different territories, different territories that the Assyrians were in control of. Read on. Wait. Don't lose the verse.
2 Kings chapter 17, verse 7.
Mm-hmm.
For so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against the one their power, which had brought them up out of the land of Egypt, from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and have feared other powers.
See that? And they feared other powers. They sinned against the Most High, who brought them up out of the land of Egypt, from under Pharaoh, and instead of fearing the Most High, they feared other powers. To the point that they were even sacrificing their own sons to these powers, these idols that man made. Read on. That's why the Most High, hey, you ain't gonna serve me, you ain't gonna fear me. Okay, I'd like to fear somebody else then. I'd like to fear man. You ain't gonna put your trust in me? No problem. I'd like to put your trust in man and have that trust come to naught. And that's exactly what happened. Read on.
And walked in the statues of the heathen, whom the one cast out from before the children of
Israel. They walked in the statues of the heathens, man. To the point that the king was designed the altars and modified the temples after the manner of the heathens. That didn't please the Most High. Read on.
For so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against the one their power, which had brought them up out of the land of Egypt, from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and have feared other powers, and walked in the statues of the heathen, whom the one cast out from before the children of Israel, and the kings of Israel, which they had made.
You know something? Nation that the Most High cast out from before you, you turn around and do what? Fearing their gods? But that's not what people did. We know the history of how the Most High cast all those heathens from the land before you, and now you occupy their land. I know you want to turn around and do what? Fear the gods of those people when the Most High cast them before you? That's like that's worse than return to your vomit, man. That's what Israel did. Read on, verse 9.
And the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against the one, their power. And they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city. And they set them up images and groves in every high hill, and under every green tree.
Yes, on the sneak tip, and outward, they pretend to be him. Yeah, we love the Most High, we love God of Israel, Isaac, and Jacob. But on a sneak tip, in the background, on the low, so to speak, in secret, what are we doing? They build high places, they build altars and fenced cities. They build towers. They build all those places in secret, so they could make sacrifices unto those idols and images of those idols. Read on, verse 11.
And there they built,
Burnt?
and there they burnt incense in all the high places, as did the heathen whom the One carried away before them, and wrought wicked things to provoke the One to anger. For they served idols, whereof the One had said unto them, Ye shall not do this thing.
That's exactly what they do. Whatever the Most High said not to do, that's exactly what they turn around and do. Read.
Yet the One testified against Israel and against Judah by all the prophets and by all the seers, saying, Turn ye from your evil ways, and keep my commandments and my statutes, according to all the law which I commanded your fathers, and which I sent to you by my servants the prophets.
So the Most High said the prophets warned them continually, from all through the generations, even up until we read about Jonah. Later on, go to Nineveh, to one of the Israelites. Read on.
I commanded your fathers, which I sent to you by my servants the prophets. Notwithstanding, they would not hear, but hardened their necks, like the neck of their fathers, that did not believe in the One their power.
Mm-hmm.
And they rejected his statutes and his covenant that he made with their fathers, and his testimonies which he testified against them. And they followed vanity and became vain, and went after the heathen that were round about. That was round about them, concerning whom the other one had charged them, that they should not do like them.
That's exactly what's going on, man. Ain't nothing new under the sun. All those things our forefathers did, or they rejected the Most High statutes and commandments, and the covenant they made with our forefathers. That's exactly what our people are doing today. They refuse to come back to the nationality, refuse to acknowledge that they're Hebrew Israelites, they refuse to keep the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments on the Shabbat day, the holy days, the high holy days, but rather want to be like the heathens. Want to be among the heathens, keeping this Hanukkah, keeping Kwanzaa, Christmas, New Year's. That's what they do. Read on.
Verse 16. And they left all the commandments of the One their power, and made them molten images, even 2 calves.
Starting with Jeroboam. Read on.
And made a grove, and worshipped all the hosts of heaven, and served Baal. And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire.
That's what the ancient Babylonians did, passing through the fire to Nimrod. And our people adopted that same custom. Read on.
And used divination and enchantments, and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the other one, to provoke him to anger. Therefore the other one was very angry with Israel, and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Judah only.
Right, so at this point, 722 BC, the Most High was so angry that he what? Removed the northern kingdom from sovereignty, from rulership. Now the whole nation of the northern kingdom banished into exile under the Assyrians, many different cities that the Assyrians were in control of. But at this point, only the kingdom of Judah, the southern kingdom, was a sovereign nation, even though it was still under the dominance of the Assyrians, because we know that the Assyrians were one of the major power players major ruling powers at that time. And the southern kingdom was at this time under Hezekiah, the son of Ahaz, was paying tribute to the Assyrians. Read on.
Verse 19. Also Judah kept not the commandments of the Adonai their power, but walked in the statutes of Israel, which they made.
Judah wasn't any much better. Slightly better. You know what I'm saying? They also walked on the statutes of the heathens, not the statutes of the Most High, which you give to Israel. Read on.
And another one rejected all the seed of Israel, and afflicted them, and delivered them into the hand of spoilers, until he had cast them out of his sight.
See that? So after the Assyrians took the northern kingdom, Israel, into captivity, the Most High was not getting ready to have the southern kingdom also go into captivity. The old seed of Israel, the old nation of Israel was now going to be banished out of the land. Read on.
For he rent Israel from the house of David, and they made Jeroboam the son of Nebat king, and Jeroboam drave Israel from following the other one, and made them sin a great sin. For the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam, which he did. They departed not from them, until the other one removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants the prophets. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day.
Right, that's what happened. Read on.
And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon and from Cuthan, and from Aval, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria, and dwelt in the cities thereof.
Let me get a map of those cities if possible. Brought men from Babylon. Get a map of Babylon. And from those cities, Cuthan, and from Ava, and Hamath, and from Sepharvaim. Possible. And placed them in the cities of Samaria. So we can see that the Assyrians took the Israelites from the northern kingdom, from Samaria, and brought them to different territories that the Assyrians were in control of. I know the Assyrians are bringing people from other territories that they were in control of to bring them. It was like a swapping. They were like trading places going on, bringing them to Samaria. That's how the Assyrians. That's how they roll. Displacing these sovereign territories. So the people were not in their comfort zone. It was very difficult for them to organize and put together any kind of a political or military infrastructure to rise up against the Assyrians. Ah, 24. 2 Kings 17:24. Different territory. Can you get Babylon, a Hamath, a Cuthan? Yeah, it's all right. Babylon, yeah, that's close enough. Men from Babylon. Yeah, there it is. Okay, gonna blow it up, yeah, you see it. So they brought men from Babylon. Okay. I'm pretty sure the other territories, probably other territories nearby Babylon, Goliath and Kuthan and all those places. All right. I read on. Huh?
And so it was at the beginning of their dwelling there, that they feared not the other one. Therefore the other one set lions among them, and slew them.
This kind of remind me when, of how the Assyrians would displace these sovereign nations, sovereign territories, by removing them out of their land and bringing them someplace else. It's kind of remind them of slavery. That's what they to our people, right? Anytime we're kind of organizing something, what do? They sell you up to another plantation. Anytime you have there's some kind of a unity going on, what do? They send you up to another plantation. So they that's like a strategy that they use to prevent you from organizing, putting together any kind of system where you can resist them. Read 25 again.
And so it was at the beginning of their dwelling there, that they feared not the other one. Therefore the other one sent lions among them, which slew some of them.
You see that? And when these other nations were brought to our homeland, they knew nothing about the Most High. They didn't fear the Most High because they were accustomed to what? Worshiping their idols. So because they didn't fear the Most High, they did whatever they wanted to do. The Most High said, and the Most High didn't like that. So the Most High did sent lions among them and slew them. Read on.
And the other one sent lions among them, which slew some of them. Wherefore they spake to the king of Assyria, saying, the nations which thou hast removed and placed in the cities of Assyria know not the manner of the other one, the power of the land. Therefore ye have sent lions among them, and behold, they slew them, and they slay them, because they know not the manner of the power of the land.
This is what we got to pick up from this also. See, Israel, we are a nation of that. We're probably the only nation of in a true sense understand monotheism. You know what? The worship of one God, one power. Understand? Because if his nation say no, what do they say? The king of Assyria. Wherefore they spake to the king of Assyria, saying, the nations, different nations, which thou hast removed and placed in the cities of Samaria, know not the manner of the God of the land. The God of the land. So as far as they're concerned, there was one God. So this God was just the God of that land. That's the mindset that they had. That's what they believed. They didn't realize that this is one power, one God. He's just the God of the land. Therefore he hath sent lions among them, and behold, they slay them, because they know not the manner of the God of the land. So these are people who had a different God for a different occasion, a different God for this land, this territory, a God of the valleys, God of the hills, God of the seas, God of the rivers. That's what they see. That's that they come from societies of polytheism, the worship of several gods. Understand? Because they keep saying what? The God of the land. Which he was the God of the land of Israel, but he's the God of all the whole territories. Verse 27.
Then the king of Assyria commanded, saying, carry hither one of the priests whom ye brought from thence, and let them go and dwell there. And
straight enough though, on the flip side, conversely, how was it that there was no complaint of lions tearing up anybody else in the other territories where where the Israelites and other nations were brought to, other than in Samaria? How come the God of their land didn't send lions to kill the Israelites? Because they ain't no gods. That's all. I hope you picked up from that. Because the gods ain't no gods. Understand? But Mosai, plus the Mosai require us to worship in a certain way. We can't just worship the Mosai as we please. You got to follow protocol in worshiping the Mosai. Read 27 again.
Then the king of Assyria commanded, saying, Carry hither one of the priests whom ye brought from thence, and let them go and dwell there, and let him teach them the manner of the power of the land.
Mm-hmm.
Then one of the priests whom they carried away from Samaria came and dwelt in Bethel, and taught them how they should fear that one.
Right. The Mosai require you to fear him. How do you fear the Mosai? Keep his laws, statutes, and commandments. Understand? The Mosai tells you how to worship him. Understand? It ain't no such thing as an inborn concept, as some people like to say. That's what. You can't worship the Mosai as I feel like. You can't just say, well, I'm just gonna be good. I'm not gonna hurt nobody. Even when you ain't hurting nobody, you're not worshiping the Mosai as the Mosai requires you to worship him. You're not following his protocol, which are the laws, statutes, and commandments. If you recall when Leviticus and all, especially Leviticus, when the Mosai was talking to Moses and Aaron, the Mosai was very specific as to how he wanted our people to worship him. You have to follow step-by-step instruction. Read on.
Then one of the priests whom they had carried away from Samaria came and dwelt in Bethel, and taught them how they should fear the Other One.
However,
every nation made powers of their own, and put them in the houses of the high places which the Samaritans had made, every nation in their cities wherein they dwelt. And the men of Babylon made...
Even though they told them how to worship the Mosai, they still went and brought their own gods, images of their own gods that they worship. Because they're not coming from a nation where they couldn't see the power. They come from a nation that the so-called power that they trust in was in front of them. Read on.
Verse 30. And the men of Babylon made Succoth Benoth, and the men of Koth made Nergal, and the men of Hamath made Ash Shema, and the Avites made Nib-Haz and Tartak, and the Sepharvites burnt their children in fire to Adram-Melech and Anam-Melech, the powers of Sepharvaim.
Yeah, all those names, Adram-Melech and Anam-Melech. See, the latter part of the name Melech, that's a spin-off from Molech, king. That's what I'm saying. The different nations are, different nations call the gods, but by different name. But they're all reference to Nimrod. Read on.
So they feared the Other One, and made unto themselves of the lowest of them priests of the high places, which sacrificed for them in the houses of the high places.
Yeah. So they fear the Mosai. Supposedly, they pretend to try to follow the protocol. According to the priest taught them to the just enough so they wouldn't get torn up by those lions. But they made unto themselves of the lowest of them priests of the high places. So they made priests of men. I guess men who could boss around. Men would take orders from them instead of giving them orders from the Mosai. Read on.
They fear the other one and serve their own powers after the manner of the nations whom they carried away from thence. Unto this day they do after the former manners. They fear not the other one, neither do they after their statutes, or after their ordinances, or after the law and the commandment, which the other one commanded the children of Jacob, whom he named Israel.
See that? So they held on to their belief. They only pretend to serve the Most High just enough to avoid getting torn by the lions. But their fear was never sincerely toward the Most High, but only toward the idols that they were accustomed to serving. Read on.
Verse 35. With whom the other one had made a covenant and charged them, saying, Ye should not fear other powers, nor bow yourselves to them, nor serve them, nor sacrifice to them. But the other one whom brought you up out of the land of Egypt with great power and a stretched out arm, him shall ye fear, and him shall ye worship, and to him shall ye do sacrifice. And the statutes and the ordinances and the law and the commandment which he wrote for you, ye shall observe to do forevermore, and ye shall not fear the other powers. And the covenant that I have made with you, ye shall not forget, neither shall ye fear other powers. But the other one your power ye shall fear, and he shall deliver you out of the hand of all your enemies. Howbeit, they did not hearken, but they did after their former manner. So these nations feared the other one, and served their graven images, both their children and their children's children, as did their fathers. So do they unto this day.
See that? So our people, man, even when they're in a predicament, instead of putting their trust in the Most High and seek deliverance from the predicament that they're in, they just became comfortable in captivity, like a homeborn slave. They become homeborn slave or a slave in a different nation. They just become comfortable in wickedness. And the heathens were brought to our land. They pretend to serve the Most High, but they didn't. They held on to their idols to this day. So we can recap 722 BC, how the northern kingdom was carried away captive from Samaria into territories of the Assyrians, and the Assyrians, who was a major power at that time, brought other nations from Babylon, Cuthan, Hamath, Sepharvaim, and other places, and placed them in Samaria, the northern kingdom, to this day. And now they were inhabiting that land. That was the strategy of the Assyrians to displace different nations, taking them out of their comfort zone, so they weren't able to organize. Understand? And they weren't able to have the assets and available to bring about any political or military infrastructure to rise up against the captors, the Assyrians. So that concludes chapter 17. And that concludes also today's lesson. Brothers are going to get ready now to take the streets to edify our people for a couple of hours or so. Don't forget, Most High willing, tomorrow, the continuation of the Shabbat service under Chief Minister Shalomar, 12 noon, 2937 West Broad Boulevard. The water everyone for logging in. Don't forget, log on tomorrow. Also at 11 o'clock, we have the Hebrew class. Let's send up the closing prayer. Psalms 33. Imagine Wapanya Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Psalms 133. Shayar, Hama Alwa, Ladawad, Hana, Ma, Tawab, Wama, Naayam, Shabbath, Akyam, Gam, Yakad, Kashaman, Hatawab, Ail, Araash, Yarad, Ail, Azakwan, Zakwan, Haaran, Shayarad, Ail, Paya, Madawah Yawa, Katal, Karamwan, Shayarad, Ail, Araria, Tazayawan, Kaya, Sham, Tazawa, Yahawa, Ath, Abaraka, Kayawam, Ail, Awalam, Ba'asham, Amashiyah, Yahawashai, the water, Aman.
The book of Psalms, chapter 133, verse 1. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious ointment upon the head that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard, that went down to the skirts of his garments, as the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion. For there Yahweh commanded the blessing, even life forevermore. Abana Yahweh Shema Sekawashai, the water from Yad Aman.
Gun. Shalom Yashirala. Shabbat Shalom.